Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington's on assignment. This time he's on, what they say, the left coast. He's out there in California, is my understanding, getting some business done. With that being said, we have one of the best pinch hitters in the game, AD Drew, batting up for him to make sure we get it all done with the three of us. With that being said, welcome to episode 490 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. From institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports coach, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in a beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well, despite all. Hanging in there, but a little tough afternoon for me. Lost my four-legged friend this afternoon, my dog. He's been with me since I moved into the neighborhood, showed up the second day I moved into my house. So he's been with me for four years now, and kind of lost him today. So this is a tough afternoon for me.
Certainly, we understand one thing to lose anybody, anything, but certainly tough when you lose man's best friend. So understand how you're dealing with that in terms of that. So all will be with you in terms of supporting you through this time. With that being said,
appreciate that.
Oh, no doubt. With that being said, AD Drew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. My CIAA tournament binge watching was interrupted by a text from one Dr. J. Kenyatta Cavil about 15 minutes ago. Bro, can you come on today? So I guess Tuesday's been my pinch hitting night. You know, last Tuesday I pinch hit for Bo Carter and Roy and Miles basketball, and today I get to pinch hit for Mike. And so if you see me looking down, Dr. Cavil, the iPad is right here, so I can keep up with the CIAA tournament.
No doubt. I appreciate you pinch hitting, as you said, getting it done. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational and consulting and data analytics. With that being said, since you're the guest of the day, although you've been here often, but we still don't treat you in proper stead. AD Drew, why don't you kick us off with some news of the day?
Well, I'm just going to keep it real simple, Dr. Cavil. I just want to talk about this CIAA tournament, man, the granddaddy of them all. And I know this is not necessarily on the script, but I believe of the 5 games they played thus far, they played 2 yesterday, they've completed today, and there's a game going on right now. And every stinking game has been competitive, no matter what the seeds are, men or women. And the first full day of action, we've already had our first overtime, Dr. Cavil, on the women's side with Shaw and Virginia Union. And if you saw the end of that game was wild. Those last 3 minutes of that particular game. Let me take that back. The last 3 minutes of regulation and into overtime. And the one thing I want to say is let's let's embrace our heritage and let's really embrace these HBCU basketball tournaments. You know, we give so much love for football. You know, Celebration Bowl is the Super Bowl for Black people, the HBCU family reunion, whatever moniker you want to give on the Celebration Bowl. But the CIAA is, you know, not only the granddad of them all when it comes to the conferences, but anybody who's been, and it's on my bucket list, but I even more than the ACC tournament, which is probably rated as the #1 tournament on the Division I level, the CIAA surpasses that annually with its ratings, and used to pass it with its attendance and everything else. So I just want everybody, if you're within shouting distance of Baltimore, Norfolk, Virginia, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, or Savannah, Georgia, over the next 3 weeks, depending on which time it is, try to make your way there for at least one day and support HBCUs, especially if you could get a day off and get to those early round games where nobody's there but mamas and girlfriends at those games, you know.
Yeah, well said. Well said, Drew. I'm glad you pointed it out there. Couldn't have said it better. That being said, we will not have a show on Thursday. We plan to do both polls today and push them out. I will be traveling to Baltimore to announce HBCU ARC, which now has moved out of the state of Texas. We'll be partnering with Bowie State University and doing the conference there next year in the fall, I should say. But we're announcing a pre-announcement, if you would. So excited about that, which means I'll get a chance to see a little bit of CIAA basketball action. So with that being said, we'll just have the full show today. With that, let me go to Charles. I think you might want to go in a different direction while we're paying attention, as Charles said, as AD said, appropriately to basketball. We also have another sport being played, and it was a past big weekend. What do you got, Charles?
Yeah, let's switch gears a little bit. As Prairie View, they rallied from a 10-8 deficit in the 8th inning to force extra innings to secure a 13-12 win over the Alabama State Hornets in 10 innings this past Sunday. Junior Leonardo Bravo, 2-0. He got the win coming out of the bullpen. His right-hander went 2/3 of the inning, giving up 1 run and 1 hit, allowing no walks and striking out 1. As senior Victor Mendoza also pitched well, going 1 shutout inning. So big win. Prairie View knocked off Alabama State. I think Southern, if I'm not mistaken, they knocked off Alabama State in that Andre Dawson Classic. So you had some good early season matchups, both in the Cactus Jack and in the Andre Dawson Classic, where you had some of the top 10 teams in the Black College Nines, top 10 ranking going against each other. So good weekend of baseball.
Good stuff. Shout out to Edwards. He said he's going to do a little bit of the dad tonight in terms of Prairie View winning the baseball classic. That's 2 in a row, going 3 in a
row. Yeah.
Finally making a statement for the West, if you would, against the East, particularly when you talk about the quality of the teams they played. They played the regular season champion, Alabama State, and got it done to them. You just talked about the comeback to tie the game, and then they got it done in extra innings. You also had a win against FAMU that won the SWAC tournament last year. So quality wins. And then they put a little something on North Carolina A&T as they get back into some HBCU sports business. So that's fascinating. I did want to share this because AD made a great point in terms of making sure you can get out there and support some of these tournaments, particularly GCAC, CIAA. You get into the SIAC next weekend. But a lot of the NI action is going on this weekend. So you have in Stillman College Hayes Center on Thursday, February 29th. It kicks off at 11 a.m. You have the GCAC tournament, which will be a fascinating one. Obviously, you have the Red River Athletic Conference for several HBCUs, and 2 of them are playing really well on the men's side, Xavier, as well as Texas College. That's March 1st to the 3rd. On the women's side, you have Xavier doing well. And then you have in the Sooner Athletic Conference, Langston, HBCU over there, both on the men's and women's side. So look forward to them. That's February the 29th to March 5th. So you'll have quite a few HBCUs playing some good basketball in tournament, and I agree with AD Drew. Let's make sure we get out there and get that in there. AD will be representing BCSN, and he has a schedule full. So he's going to find a way to get over to the GCAC to make sure we get some insight. So check him out on Sunday. I'm sure he'll make sure that he'll give you what he saw. You saw how he broke down watching the CIAA, giving you some good action there. And then you'll notice he'll be in SIAC country next week to make sure you get it done. And then he's not going to let it alone. Final week, he's going to be in Birmingham for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And so we'll keep you updated over the next couple of weeks to see what that looks like. But let's take our first break and come back and get you some of these polls. Mid-major wise, you got the polls pretty much ending the regular season. So we'll see what teams look like ranking at the mid-major, both men's and women's. We got a couple of more weeks in terms of the major division. I have to give a shout out to Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils as they finally got one. Happened to be painfully against Prairie View, so Mike had to do his. This Valley. Yeah, Mike Valley. I don't know if they have it for Prairie View, but they find a way to get well against Prairie View in multiple sports. Men's basketball, football. So, and at worst, we had a 28-0 streak that was mentioned by Brian that they were looking to make even, I guess, and then obviously could have went the rest of the season and broke the streak. They were at 27 straight losses. Both Grambling put them in the mix, and Prairie View had 28-0 seasons, straight losses. They made sure that they did not tie that record, and it happened to be against Valley. Valley has done this for a long time. You know, when Prairie View went on the 80-game losing streak, right? The team that started that losing streak was Mississippi Valley. I was on campus as a freshman during that time. When
Mike is gonna have to retire the catchphrase.
Yeah, I know he better quit step dancing on that Indian Burial Center talking about Valley if you want to change it.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey,
man.
more important than the loss is where that loss puts Prairie View when it comes to the SWAC race.
Oh, it's over. They can forget that. Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. They will not. I don't see how they make the tournament. I thought they needed both, but they certainly needed one, which obviously you would have thought have been Valley. So you're right, AD Drew. It's going to be tough to find a way. You got probably FAMU, Pine Bluff, and Alabama A&M fighting to see who's going to be that last seed in at number 8. But Valley and Prairie View, I would be surprised. I know they're ahead of FAMU technically, but it's going to be hard. With that being said, let's go to our first break. We'll come back on the other side and see if we can sneak a little more of that basketball turkey in this time of the year. People are putting on their dancing shoes. They want to go dance. Let's see what it looks like on the other side in terms of poll ranking. Yeah.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em. It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper.
Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
We press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles and AD. Let's get into the mid-major on the women's side with the poll ranking. There is a team that dropped out, and that is none other than the Miles Lady Golden Bears. They were rolling. You thought had the big win. Remember when Kentucky State Thoroughbreds were undefeated? They got it done. Well, they dropped to 20-6, 15-4 on the season. But worse than that for them, they looked like they were going to win the Western Division. No. With that loss, it pushed Kentucky State up. Credit to them to get it done. Kentucky State is outside of that top 7, but right outside of that top 7, essentially are number 8. As you see, outside receiving votes, the Savannah State Tigers at 19-5, 15-4. Yeah, Miles Lady Golden Bears, 20-6, 15-4. So they don't drop too far down out of the top 5, but they do drop out of the top 5. With that being said, let's get in to the top 5. At number 5, you have Xavier, the Gold Nuggets. They remain at number 5. They had 2 big wins this past weekend, 23-5, 19-3, 49 points. But they remain at number 5. Bring us to number 4. Langston Lions. They've been winning big time. They find a way to jump in the poll in week number 8. 22-6, 17-5, 53 points. They were not ranked, and they jumped all the way up to the top 5 at number 4. Bring us to number 3. Virginia State Lady Tigers. Lady Trojans. 22-4, 13-4, 60 total points. They remain at number 3. They had a victory before. Now they're going into the CIAA. Can they push it forward? Can they bring home the trophy? It looks like they probably will get a postseason invite one way or the other, but they want that CIAA tournament trophy. With that being said, number 2, Fayetteville State Lady Broncos are in the way, and they say they have something to say about it. They had 24-2 with a stellar regular season, 17-1, record-setting season. 3 first-place votes, 75 points. Previous ranked 2, so they stay right there with that momentum. Man, you know, it's something about those upsets, but it would be a beautiful thing if we could find Fayetteville State and Virginia State in the championship game. We'll see if they can hold chalk. I don't know. We'll see. At number 1, Rush Lady Bearcats, 25-3, 17-1. 5 first-place votes, 71 points, dominating the GCAC. Only 1 loss. It'll be interesting. Last year in the tournament, they had to win it at the buzzer, essentially, to get it done. Will they have that type of run in the tournament? Or will they run right through the tournament on their way to the NAIA National Tournament? We shall see. But should be fascinating in Tuscaloosa for GCAC, particularly on the women's side. We'll see what that looks like. You have Fix in the background, maybe trying to find a way to sneak in there. Falana Smith may have something to say with it. Remember, they had that legendary matchup last year in the championship game. With that being said, let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts in terms of the top 5 rankings for the mid-major women in week number 8?
I like it. I like what we have here, and I'm especially interested in number 2 and number 3, Virginia State, Fayetteville State. We got the CIAA tournament going on right now. AD Drew, take me down this rabbit hole. Is there a Claflin? Is there a Johnson C. Smith? Who is a bad matchup for either Fayetteville State or Virginia State?
Well, ironically, the Winston-Salem State Johnson C. Smith game which is going on right now. The winner of that game will face Virginia State, and that will be on Thursday. But initially, I would have said Lincoln, PA going against Elizabeth City would have been a matchup that should scare Elizabeth City, but Lincoln lost. So we could throw that one out, that prognostication out. But the winner of today's game against Virginia State should be something. But Shaw today, it impressed me with the way they won that game. A lot of adversity in that game, and came back and consistently fought back. Some I won't say questionable calls, but you had a flagrant one called on one end coming down the stretch, and then on the opposite end you had a flopping call, like the next sequence of plays. I mean, where do we see that at? So
that's got popular, that flopping call late.
Yeah, and the thing is, both of them, they had to go to the monitor to adjudicate the fouls, which means you got the Jeopardy music playing while they doing it. But I, for some reason, I like Shaw over Claflin as the one that I am going to keep my eye out of if you're going to get an upset, because I said this last week. I think I was on this show. I know I said it on SportsWrap Sunday. Go back and watch Brian and myself's breakdown of it. There's always a team with the bye that drops that first game of the tournament against a team that has already played a game. I'm looking for, on the women's side, I'm looking Shaw Claflin as that one to watch. And I'm going to give you one, Charles, and Wendy's not going to like when I say this, but Philander always gives Russ hell.
They really do.
Whenever it happens, I am looking for another classic matchup in the finals, because they're on the opposite side of the bracket. So it won't be until the finals when those two would meet. And it would not surprise me if Philander does it once again. No disrespect to Coach Jackson over there at Russ, but for some reason, that is the one matchup that he cannot consistently win. It's a coin flip every time those two play each other.
Agree. Anything else stands out in terms of the poll before we take this break, AD?
One thing I want to look at, the bottom half of the bracket for the championship game. The bottom half of the bracket, the semifinal is at 6:00 on March 1st. The championship game is at 1:00 on March 2nd. Whereas the other semifinal coming off the top half of the bracket is 12:00 on March 1st, and then 1:00 on March 2nd.
All day to get off those knees.
Does that play a factor, that extra rest that first semifinal team get, which is the half of the bracket that Elizabeth City and Claflin are on? Will that play a factor on the championship, whoever comes out of that bracket, that half of the bracket, versus the team who comes out the southern half of the bracket, which contains Fayetteville State and Virginia State for the championship? Just something to keep your eye out on.
Great points. It's something when you look at the women's poll, and all teams have 20-plus wins, clearly over 20 wins. And even Miles Lady Golden Bears that lost the last two, they drop out and they still have 20 wins. That just lets you know what they're getting
Nobody
done.
has more than 5 losses. That's what's impressive.
Yeah, another one. Great point. Let's get into our next break and see what it is on the men's side of the mid-major. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles and AD. The professors in the building. Shout out to Edwin B. Moore that has me cracking up in the break, asking the question about the Bearcats and the Bobcats, Chupacabra. As we talk about all this, he said he was curious about the Bobcat too. He saw one in junior high school. He said, best term he ever run. I bet
they
you
real.
But you still here to talk about it, so I know you were picking them up and laying them down. With that being said, let's get into the mid-major division of the poll rankings and give you some updates of what's going on the men's side of things. Drop me out this week. Benedict Tigers. They had a loss and a win. They finally fall out. Top 25 program. Kind of struggling late, but they still just have 6 losses on the season. 21-6, 15-6, and all 6 of those losses have been in the conference. Certainly gives you understanding of just how tough it was in the East. Before we get into the top 5, though, let's talk about some of the teams receiving votes. Texas College Steers at 20-7, 16-5. They had a win and a loss as they close out regular season. Benedict still stays in that top 7. Benedict Tigers is 21-6, 15-6. Some of the other teams out of the East that have fallen on hard time is Morehouse Maroon Tigers, although they've had 2 big wins to close it out before they go in the tournament. So you're talking about playing some good basketball right now. They had 19-9, 16-5 in the conference race for Atlanta Smith. Talking about on the women's side, on the men's side, they're playing pretty well, 18-8, 14-4 out of the GCAC and Talladega Tornadoes at 21-6, 10-4. You see, I got it there, Charles. Talladega Tornadoes. 21-6, 10-4 in terms of what they did in the GCAC. Let's look at the top 5 as we get into that top 5. Getting in there is Xavier Gold Rush. Just like on the women's side, they're playing some good basketball on the men's side. Out of the Red River Athletic Conference, they were sitting at 21-5 overall, 16-4, 47 points, and they remain in the 5th spot. Number 4, Tougaloo Bulldog, 23-5, 15-3. They jump in from receiving votes, had to make sure we get it, and actually threw up their logo as well. Everybody understood that. That is 23-5, 15-3. I wanted to show them plenty of love. 58 points, not ranked in the top 5. Just make sure for all those Mississippi folks, I want to be invited back to Mississippi, particularly. They just treat me so well. So I thought I'd go the extra mile. Shout out to all those good folks over there. Bringing us to number 3, Clark Atlanta Panthers. You know what I tell you about Clark Atlanta? They won the regular season in terms of the East. Obviously, a strong division to find a way to get out of there, and they do it in style. They do have 1 loss as they close out the season, but they still hold on to it based on the loss of Benedict. A classic matchup. During the break, Roy talked about BCSN and how that went down with some of those games with Edward Waters and the likes, going to the monitor, looking at stuff, 3 possession lead changes during different games. And that. So it's going down in the SIAC to close out the regular season. If this is any indication of the tournament that AD will be watching and making sure he gives us the updates, it will be another head spin which he likes to have chaos. Well, they might have already started. 22-5, 16-5. They still stand up as they remain in the 3 spot in the mid-major poll ranking. Bring us to number 2. Miles Golden Bears. They get in the top 5 and they hold on to it for the second consecutive week. Miles is at 20-5. They had a win this past week, 15-4, 71-2. Might be the hottest team going into the tournament. Is Miles. You talk about Clark Atlanta. Remember, just less than 10 days ago, you had that head-to-head matchup between Clark Atlanta and Miles. It was in Fairfield. For those that don't know, that's Greater Birmingham, outside of that area where Miles College, the Golden Bears are there. Shout out to one of our frat brothers over there that wanted to make sure I talked with the Miles Golden Bears. I said, we just talked about it. You need to make sure you're watching the show. You tell it on the show. Well, I gave him a little extra spin there. 20-5, 15-4. As I said, team that's very hot. They remain at number 2, 71 in the ranking. And that's Chris. I'm going to give him a shout out, let him know. At number 1, Langston Lions, 27-1, 21-1, all 8 first place. Remember, it's been a while now. They locked up the Conference Sooner Athletic standing, and I told you they'll be in the tournament this weekend. So keep your eyes on the Lions to just see if they can continue to roll as they prepare to get in the NIA tournament and make a run. 8 first place votes. They hold them all at 80 points, remain number 1. They continue to maintain that number 1 ranking. I'm not sure if anybody can get them, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in these postseasons, whether it's the conference tournament or the national tournament. With that being said, I'm going to go to you, AD, first, then come to Charles as he's just smiling. He has something to say, but I'm going to make him hold on it for a little bit. AD Drew, what's your thoughts?
All right, let's just go ahead and let's just throw Langston out the window. We know that they're good. they're all that and a bag of chips. They deserve every adjective that we can put before and after the Langston Lions were describing their basketball team. Let's look at the SIAC. On a national level, you've got Benedict and Clark Atlanta, who are under consideration for the national tournament. They're currently in the top 10. They have not ordered the top 10. They just have the 10 teams listed alphabetically right now. So Benedict and Clark are listed among those teams. They are 2 of the 3 HBCUs that are listed. Those 2 in the South, and West Virginia State is listed in the Atlantic region. So I wonder where they at on your poll there, Dr. Cavil. Where your voters at? No West Virginia State love.
They outside of that top 7. They in there. They behind Talladega. It's tough to get in the mid majors with 20+ wins. You got to be smoking. These folks don't play.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But what that tells me, Doc, that those 2 M&M schools, that would be Miles and Morehouse, despite how good they are, despite where they rank at in the Dr. Cavil's poll on a national level, that is saying that they will have to win the SIAC tournament in order to get in. Now, when you look at a team like Miles, who defense travels, just like in football, defense travels. Miles plays the best defense hand down in the SIAC. They're giving up right at 60 points per game. So you have to think that that's going to equate over into the tournament, especially when how can I put it? Gonads get a little tighter in the tournament, and possessions become longer. People don't shoot as often, and so that's going to favor a team like Miles when it comes down to the tournament. So I'm just looking for because they already play. They already play good defense. They already play the best defense. And when possessions become limited, a team that's used to getting up and down and fast breaking and scoring 80, 85 points a game, that does not happen in anybody's conference tournament, y'all. Teams scoring average naturally go down in the tournament because these teams value the possessions even more. So a team that plays good defense, that favors them even more because they're used to having those valuable possessions. Despite the fact that Miles only scores 60 points a game, give up 60 points a game. They only score 66, 67 points a game. So
and that's my concern. Can they score enough? I get it. Defense is and possessions matter, especially postseason. But what really concerns me is, and I've watched this enough with Jackson State in the tournament, where they just can't score. They can't, they play defense like all get out, but can't, they go 4, 5, 6, 7 possessions without scoring. Does that playing so hard on the defensive end of the side of the ball, does it take away legs, especially when you're trying to get some points on the offensive side?
For a team that's used to playing like that, it's no problem. For a team, we'll say a Benedict or a Clark Atlanta that likes to get up and score, it can mentally affect them. You've got certain teams that are used to, they know they'll go 5 possessions and won't score, but they not worried about it because they know you're not going to score these 5 possessions also. That's just how they play. But for teams that are used to going ODO, offense, defense, offense, and not able to score, then it's a mental drain on them. And one last thing before I get off of here, shout out to Coach Fred Watson at Miles. Ever since coming to Miles from Benedict, he has won outright or a share of the SIAC West title. He came over in the 18-19 season. So that would count on, I believe that is 5 consecutive SIAC West titles for one Coach Fred Watson. Let's get this man his flowers while he's here.
Who's going to scoop him up? Who's out there that's going to scoop up Fred Watson?
I mean, somebody on the Division I level, be it HBCU, be it non-HBCU. I mean,
it'll be interesting to see when,
especially. I was gonna say, especially given the fact that he's won at 2 of the most limited resource HBCUs that we have, and he's been able to recruit successfully at Benedict and Miles, who, well, let's be real, those do not have the deepest pockets when it comes to their alumni, those 2 schools.
No, I think you say both of y'all ask really important questions when you go beyond the season and what that looks like. We talked a little bit about Langston. Coach Chris, right, you put that out there yourself, AD Drew. What I've noticed is you hadn't seen in the SWAC or the MEAC over the last 10-some years where ADs were bringing up Division II coaches or NIA coaches. It hasn't happened. That window hasn't taken place in a while. You see it in football more than you do, and we just seen an uptick of that this past all season, so maybe things will switch. But you don't see it as often. You tend to see other Division I coaches switch from a program. You see assistant D1 coaches get elevated and move to a program. You see assistant coaches from other Division I programs outside of HBCUs, mainly, obviously, historically white colleges and universities, I like to call them. But you don't see the opportunity to move up from D2 NIA to D1. You've seen that 15 years ago. You had a lot of coaches that were in the Red River Athletic Conference coming from Texas College, Wiley College, Langston. At that time, Langston was in the Red River, and they were both on the men's and women's side, coming over to Prairie View, coming over to Grambling, coming on the women's side, on the men's side, Mississippi Valley. But you hadn't seen it much. You've seen D2 out of CIAA coming over to Grambling about 15 years ago. But again, if you think about it, that's not something that's taken place at the over the last 10 years. So I think it's an important question to kind of keep our eyes on it. What is the framework so different at the Division I level in men's and women's basketball that you don't necessarily see at the FCS level? With that, let's take our next break. We'll come back and talk a little bit on the major side, and we might see some of the programs that you don't have to worry about having new coaches unless they go somewhere else in terms of get an opportunity. But that may keep you in line of some of the coaches that may be in a position where they're struggling, and we might have some opening spots to see if somebody's going to take a flyer on some of these great coaches. It's fascinating to see what that looks like. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this next break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with the professors, Professor Bishop, Professor Drew. Let's get into it on the mid-major for the women. Chivalry's not dead. We're gonna start with the ladies. Up to it as they grace the courts and get it done. Shout out to Liv as she is doing great work on HBCU Nightly. We've had those guests on there. We're going to bring her on here as well. Got to contact, try to reach out. But they are doing some marvelous work. They usually on Friday nights, but this past weekend they did Sunday night. And boy, do they get into some good basketball talk. So if you want some extended talk, really some details, make sure you go check out HBCU Nightly with Hoops Nightly, as they, as I said, traditionally do Fridays, but they moved to Sunday this past weekend with the tournaments. Make sure you check them out to see where they're moving. With that, let's get into the major division for the women. Pine Bluff, they dropped out on the women's side. Tough loss. Credit on Monday. They got to bounce back. Coach Don over there got it done with 100 wins of the program. That was big time to do that, particularly after everything that took place, to find a way to get a win on Monday. Credit to her. They bounced back big fashion, but it wasn't enough to keep them dropping out, as they did have that loss on Saturday. They are at 15-3, dropping out. Those receiving votes, Pine Bluff right in the mix, 15-13, 40. So they're just outside of there. Southern Jaguars, who had a tough loss as well. Shout out to Grambling that went 4-0 against Southern in basketball this year, including getting 2 big wins on the road. That's big time. Let's get into the top 5. We have a new top 5 in the ranking. At number 5, Howard Bison, 11-14, 8-3, 52 points. They were not ranked. Howard has quietly been winning, stacking up those wins, because remember, they fell a little early, but they found a way, and they at least are pushing the top seed over there in the MEAC. They are at number 5 with 52 points, bringing us to number 4. North Carolina A&T State Aggies got 2 big wins as they bounce back, but unfortunately a loss a couple of weeks ago, having 1 loss behind the Seahawks over there, but they had that matchup this week, so it'll be interesting to see, can they get a share of the Coastal. Maybe another loss will make them find a way to get it outright, but they're still in the top 5 in the mix, remaining at number 4 with 54 points, 18-8, 12-3 in the Colonial. At number 3, Grambling State Tigers. Told you about this program. Once they jumped in the top 5, they want to let it go. They got a taste of winning. New coach, and boy, are they getting it done. 17-8, 11-3, 62 points, and they remain right there in the 3 spot. At number 2, Norfolk State Spartans, 21-5, 10-1. They're pretty hot as well. One first place vote, 73 points, sitting at the number 2 spot. They would be at number 1, except you have the Jackson State Tigers. Those ladies in Jackson, Mississippi, they know how, and it seems like they like to win. 19-6, 14-0. They are looking to clinch the regular season as they get done. 7 first place votes, 79 points, and boy, are they rolling. One win away from another 21 season. Man, wow. It is amazing what they're doing over there in Jackson, Mississippi, particularly on the women's side of the hardwood. With that being said, Charles, what do you think about the top 5?
I think you hit it on the head. I was going to mention the Howard basketball team. Seems as though they're coming down the backstretch and nobody sees them, but they're right on the tail of Norfolk State, if you will. So it's very interesting to watch and see what they're doing. Like I said, they start off a little bit slow, but they picked up steam going down the stretch. A team that's tremendously impressive to me, Grambling. When you take a look at this Grambling team, offensively, they're in the top 3. Defensively, they're in the top 3. And they don't have a leading scorer nowhere close within the top 15, 16, 17 players in the SWAC. They do it with great team basketball. And if not for Jackson State, we would be really talking about this Grambling State basketball team. Like I said, that was impressive to go down to Baton Rouge this weekend and get the W. Jackson State, they're hitting on all cylinders. Texas two-step this weekend. I don't think they'll have a problem Saturday, but Monday, going down there to Prairie View. I've seen weird things happen. Monday Manic Madness. So let's see what happens.
We saw Monday Madness with Valley. Yeah,
we did.
Valley. Monday Madness. I did not feel comfortable about that game after Charles introduced me to the Monday Madness. I was like,
weird things happen.
I say, please blow them out early. Once I saw them down early at halftime, I was like, they made a run in the second half, but couldn't get farther enough away from them without them to wheel them down. Shout out to those Delta Devils and the gentleman with the call. They got a mention on ESPN in terms of how they were hyped about getting the win. And he talked about them rushing the floor. Boy, I tell you, they tickle me. They having a ball, having too much fun. And it's just something about black joy, particularly from young folks that are putting in the work. I can't hate on that. In fact, I celebrate it. With that being said, AD Drew, I want to get your thoughts on the women's top 5, but we have to acknowledge, I kind of teased it out there, North Carolina A&T in the Colonial against Stony Brook. A&T 17-8, 11-3 in the race. Stony Brook is 21-3, 12-2. This is on Sunday. So both teams have a game on Friday before they get into that matchup. But since we won't be back on Thursday, I got to keep my eyes on that. And obviously, Charles kind of alluded to some of those big matchups in both the MEAC and the SWAC. As you start to go down the stretch, people are trying to close out on a regular season champion. And if you're too far out and you can't get that, then you're really looking at making your seedings. And some folks, if you're in the SWAC, you're looking to see to make sure you get in the tournament, see if you can get some of that March Madness getting going. With that being said, Drew, what do you think on the women's top 5?
Before I give this final from the CIAA, I wanted to point out a couple of things. Number one, I am so happy that at least for a moment, it seems like the Golden Lions has solved whatever the hell they had going on internally last week. I'm glad that looks like that may be behind them with them getting that W. But Charles, here's your softball. Does Grambling have what it takes to scare the crap out of Jackson State and possibly upset them in the tournament? Like you said, they don't have one person to key on. They're a team effort. Can they knock a Jackson State off on the women's side?
You have to rebound with Jackson State, and what they are tremendous at is offensive rebounding, second chance possessions. If you take a look at the box scores with most of their games, they're normally whooping you on second chance possessions. And that's one of the things that I just sort of pay attention to with regards to Jackson State. They're normally stout with regards to Angel Jackson, especially in the middle, because she can rebound and score. It's going to take a Southern-like performance where they are just knocking down three-point shots, and it's going to take one of those type games to really knock off Jackson State. They are really a well put together team.
Charles is so politically correct with that. I keep it simple. No. Southern, they have the attitude, and I'm serious about this. Southern has a different attitude in playing Jackson. So it takes up for some of the weaknesses you may see in the Southern team. And what I love about basketball, particularly in both the MEAC and SWAC this year, and I'll be interested to see if you move it forward, you're seeing such different styles in terms of players and recruits that it really is about these matchups, certainly on the Monday night. And so I think in the tournament, it's going to be interesting to see what type of matchups suit up. Also would give a punch a chance to Pine Bluff because they have an attitude in regards to Jackson. Obviously, the turmoil, that kind of concern you what that looks like, where
no pun intended on their puncher's chance.
Right, exactly. Be very careful with that. But so that's the thing that concerns me about Grambling. Also, it's something about the tournament I like when teams have been there before. I know they had some players that played there a little bit, but particularly coaches and players that have kind of been in that, it's easy to succumb to the atmosphere in that house. And so I like teams that have kind of built and went there. I'll be interested to see what we say on the men's side because can Grambling finally get it done? Go ahead, Charles.
So the question is, do we see Zay Green down the stretch? We didn't see it this weekend. If you take a look at the box score with regards to Texas Southern and Prairie View, but do we see her this weekend? Do we see her as we get towards do we see her in the tournament actually? So I think that's something to keep an eye on with regards to Pine Bluff because she's a game changer.
And with our fans, boy, I tell you, they do not like the fact that these coaches do not tell them information. You got it down there with Southern with the previous leading scorer. I mean, you have folks that do not understand why these coaches do not put out statements. So they got to say something. I say, even if they say something, if it's not enough, you're not going to be happy. Now you got with the Bible. They say these folks had to say something. I said, this is so different. I'm not sure what they knew what to say. Not they could say it. But traditionally, when you have a conference, a commissioner make a statement, or even an AD, that's traditionally when there's altercation between two teams. We've seen that in the Southland, obviously, across the board in different areas when that happens. But it's totally different when it's one team. That is such an anomaly. I don't know if making a statement is enough. One, you're trying to figure out what the heck went on. And two, which brings us a little bit, is this madness with folks crashing the floor. While I teased Valley a little bit, it wasn't out of chaos. But you also seen the coach at Valley trying to get the fans off the floor. It wasn't, significant about it. But it was enough for things to maybe be chaotic, particularly coming out of this week when you talk about discussion of rushing the floor, which is intriguing because we've seen it both on the women's side with the preeminent star Caitlin getting nicked up a little bit and being duped with blue blood programs, that they like to call it. So it's fascinating to see where this is going to go as sports continue on. With that being said, we'll take our next break, come back on the other side, and get into the major league. Go ahead.
Get that final from the CIAA on the women's side. Johnson C 65, Winston-Salem 59. That is the final.
Awesome. Great update. As we give it to you live, I told you that's what we do here on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We'll see you on the other side after this break.
2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles and AD. let's get into the major division on the men's side where things are pretty interesting. Oh, we did have a team falling out, and it was none other than the Southern Jaguars. They literally had a game with Grambling at home, winner take all. You'd have had first place on the line. You also had a top 5 spot on the line, and Jaguars, as you see, did not get it done. They fall out of the top 5 at 16-11, 10-4, but they're in good position as they see how to close out the season. It should be interesting down the stretch. The big thing about that game is, as we said earlier, both men's and women's, but the men obviously swept Southern. So you don't have to worry about point differential. So head-to-head, even if there's a tie regular season, it's going to go to Grambling in terms of that top seeding. At receiving votes, Southern Jaguars, 16-11, 10-4. So they fall just outside of the top 5. All of a sudden, Alcorn State Braves, 10-17, 9-5. We didn't get into it, but at the end of the game, obviously, Jackson State lost that game. You had a coach tech Jackson State overtime. Certainly a tough call, whether you're a fan of Jackson or not. That was a tough call down the stretch. I didn't see a lot of evidence. The guy.
And we broke it down yesterday, too.
He falls to the ground. The other guy stands up, and he gets the offensive foul. You're like, wow, okay. But, hey, that's what happens when you get down there on the complex, as they like to say.
No comment.
Yeah, you better not.
Go back and watch yesterday's Sports Wrap.
Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, you talking about watching their games, more magic. Boy, did they get it done. They're outside of the top 7. They're 14-4, 19-6. They had 2 thrilling games at home this past weekend, and they get the W's against the Alabama schools, A&M and Alabama State. That's Alabama A&M, for those that don't know. Top 5, you just saw it. Teased you out, took Southern Tigers. Charles said this last week after they win against Southern on Monday night. They are getting hot. They go on the road, and they get it done. They beat up on Valley, come from behind to get Pine Bluff, and they leave out at 14-14 and not to be shook in the conference race, 10-5, as they are getting done just outside of that spot. Look out. Here come those Tigers. 54 points, not ranked. They're in the top 5 now. And number 4, North Carolina Central Eagles, 2 big wins, 15-11, 7-4, 61 points. Was moving at number 5. Last week, he moves up a spot. He has the Eagles in the 4th spot looking good down the stretch. At number 3, Tennessee State Tigers get back to winning. They close out as they get prepared for the OVC tournament. 17-12, 10-6, 79 points, 4th place. See what they do this past weekend to kind of close up the OVC. Things have kind of tightened up over there. Can they get in those top 4 spots? We shall see. Keep your eyes on the Tigers. At number 2, another Tigers. This one's in the SWAC. Grambling State Tigers. We told you about the big victory over Southern. They had 14-13, 11-3. 4th place votes, 102 points. Remain in number 2 spot as they are playing some great basketball. At number 1, before I get there, I will say this about Grambling. Can Grambling finally cut down the notes in the SWAC tournament? This team has been playing really good basketball over the last couple of years, winning regular season championships. Can they go to the tournament? Team that's been right there. Can they finally get it done? We shall see. At number 1, Norfolk State Spartans. They looking to kind of come back. Obviously, Howard got it done over them. Crucial, where they looked like they had a game wrapped up to win 3 MEAC tournaments in a row, not to be done, 19-9, 9-2, 7 first place votes, 106 points. And credit to the Norfolk State. You used to them being really good. They had a lot of losses, and they brought a lot of players in. They had close games, but you can tell just the heart, well-coached program. They find a way to get it done, and they look like they are hungry to try to get back to the top in terms of a MEAC regular season championship as well as a tournament. So we shall see. AD Drew, what do you think about the men's top 5?
All right, I'm going to start outside the top 5, Alcorn State. Can Alcorn State get it done in the tournament this year? They have not been able to get it done in the last couple of years in the tournament, suffering early losses. So Can Alcorn stay correct that? But Doc, I think the scariest thing that I saw on your poll is the team that sits at the number 5 spot, Texas Southern. And everybody
Which is one
in
of the
the
reasons
SWAC
you talk about
knows
Alcorn
why.
not getting it done. Or Grambling. Because they keep running into Texas Southern.
Because they keep running into Texas Southern. Those 2 teams that you named lose to the place that feeds your family every year in the doggone tournament. So, and Texas Southern, we've seen Texas Southern winning from the top. We've seen Texas Southern be also ran and win it. And we saw them sneak in last year and win it. So Texas Southern can beat you no matter where they are seated at. They have shown this traditionally. So the scariest thing on your poll is Texas Southern getting it right and getting it right early, unlike last year. And then you got Tennessee State. Can they make some noise in the OVC?
Good question.
That's the question. And then Norfolk. We've seen Norfolk sit at the top and dominate the BCAC, and then get that matchup in the BCAC tournament, where be it Central, be it Howard, be it somebody, where it just isn't good, and they lose a heartbreaker. Can Norfolk hold on? Because Norfolk, we've seen Norfolk, when they are the hunter, go ahead and win it. I don't know if I've really seen Norfolk win from the hunted position lately.
Good point. Good point. Charles?
Yeah, AD, I don't know if you remember when Buda Baker from the Cardinals made that pick 2-3 years ago, and DK Metcalf ran him down before he could score. That's Texas Southern chasing down, Alcorn, Grambling, because they running right now and looking over their shoulder. Because if Texas Southern goes 2-0 this weekend with Jackson State and Alcorn coming in, everybody better strap up your seatbelt, because Texas Southern's on
Texas
their way.
Invitation is open.
Woo! Texas Invitation. All of a sudden, it comes to bear. So let's see what happens this weekend with regards to Jackson State and Alcorn doing the Texas two-step. I'm very interested. Monday night, Bethune-Cookman at Grambling. That to me is going to be a fun one to watch, to see what can Bethune-Cookman do on the road. That's going to be interesting. We've seen them handle themselves sort of up and down on the road this season, but what can they do against Grambling this weekend? Grambling and Southern actually this weekend. So we got some fun contests coming down the stretch.
Yeah, no doubt. Well said. When you talk about some of those matchups going down the stretch, it'll be fascinating to see what goes on. We're going to take a last break. Charles has a question of the day he wants to get out. We're going to make sure he gets that out. So we're going to take one last break, come back on the other side, and give you what it looks like. Before we do that, when we talk about some of those key matchups, Norfolk State and Delaware State, Central at Coppin State, South Carolina State, Morgan State, Howard and Maryland Eastern Shore. When you talk about Sunday, that means you have North Carolina Central at Morgan State, Delaware State at Howard, Maryland Eastern Shore, Norfolk State, South Carolina State, and Coppin State. I don't know if anything really stands out, but just the way these games have been played, don't be surprised if somebody goes down in terms of what that looks like. When you talk about Saturday in the SWAC, Bethune-Cookman at Southern should be interesting. You got 2 teams that are looking for seeding at the top part of the conference. 2 and 3 seeds, 4 seeds are on the line. You got that rivalry, Alabama State, Alabama A&M, FAMU at Grambling. So fascinating to see what goes on there. Jackson State at Texas Southern, Mississippi Valley at Arkansas Pine Bluff, another rivalry matchup. Alcorn State at Prairie View. Coach Bussey has had his way with the Prairie View A&M Panthers. Is he going to come in and kind of ruin things when you look at senior night for a lot of these guys? Should be interesting to see what that looks like in terms of that matchup. Then on Monday, you have the Jackson State at Prairie View, Alcorn at Texas Southern. Another key matchups on Monday. It was fascinating to see. That has Alcorn State at 9-5, Texas Southern at 10-5. So somebody's looking for that seeding again. Outside shots at the top ranked teams. Bethune-Cookman 9 at 10-3. That's on the men's side. Fascinating to see what that looks like. Take our last break. Come back on the other side. Let Charles ask his question of the day. Then we'll call it an evening. Stick with us. Be right back after this break.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted CAVIL'S voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'sVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Will inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Belinda Johnson, Alcorn, can and will. She stated again to make sure we understand it clearly. Alcorn can and will win this weekend. Ooh, Lord. They'll just rub it in. Ugh. With that being said, I like some Coach Bussy though. With that being said, let's get into Charles with the question of the day.
Yeah, let's take a look at Ask the Professor tonight. And what I wanted to talk about was looking at the Legacy Bowl. We had an unfortunate injury with regards to Davius Richard, arguably the best quarterback in HBCU football this past season. RPO play, fractured his ankle down there at the Legacy Bowl. So I did want to ask a question. Will coaches and or agents second guess sending upper tier players down to this HBCU All-Star game?
It's a tough question in terms of what that looks like. I think you might have some that have a hesitation, but unless you're really so far on the board where you're getting the invite to the combine in Indianapolis, I think at some point you still want to get out there. Now you can take the traditional route where you see some of the obviously premier top quarterbacks that just do the drills, if you would, and they don't necessarily play in the game. So that's something to think about. But football is such a contact sport that it becomes challenging when you do that. And so I'm not sure if there's a true answer about that. But I would hesitate to see that you'd have too many agents, coaches not participating.
I will say my immediate reaction was, why is he running the football? That was my immediate, and all the texts I got immediately was, why is he running the football? But I understand football is a contact sport, but and my understanding was, you know, there was an understanding as to what plays he would be running down there. So I guess that lends itself even more question as to why was that play call? Yeah,
that's certainly for sure. If there was an understanding, I'd be curious to see who understood that in regards to what it looks like. And, you know, it's interesting to me when somebody said there's an understanding. What does that mean? Who understood? Was there a direct conversation, or was this what you think happens in an all-star game when you say that was your understanding? So I really would be intrigued about what does that mean? Obviously, you had the comments from the coaches. I think both of them had some validity. Motion is certainly high. You're talking about a coach that had a quarterback, took him to a national champion that he's seen grow as a freshman. So a lot of emotional ties there. Again, you know, I heard somebody say, hey, that's what he runs. That's what he played. We just did what he called. So some thoughts on that. I think the other question that's on the table with somebody talk about, is there anything you can do to separate from the injuries? I think that's an even tougher question in regards to what you look like in these games. Because there's thought process. You see some all-star games where they play where you don't sack the quarterback type of games. But you had a defensive player that was able to really show off and get defensive MVP because he had 4 sacks.
Yeah.
But, you know, how did that go when you punishing defensive players for doing that. And again, I think, all these years with all these games, you hadn't had these type of injuries or whatever. And so football is just one of those tough games where every once in a while somebody just has a tough injury that gets in there. Eddie, Drew, you want to add anything to it?
Charles, Dr. Cavil, should a pitcher pitch in a baseball all-star game for fear of their shoulder or their elbow? Should they not throw their changeup for fear of their shoulder or their elbow? It's part of the game, unfortunately. It's an unfortunate part of the game. What positions does Davius Richard play? Quarterback. I'm going to give you a number when you think about his position, and that number is 2. The number of quarterbacks that have been drafted from the HBCU ranks in the last 30 years. Steve Air McNair and Tavares Jackson.
Tavares Jackson. Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he's playing a position and the NFL scouts think that our quarterbacks are going to grade out as a top 3 draft pick. Hell, our quarterbacks won't even grade out as a draft pick, and until recently have been lucky to get UDFAs. Davius Richard probably was playing to get to the UFL, realistically. So when you consider the UFL compared to a professional career, and I mean a professional career, as in, if I don't know what his major is, business or whatever his major would be, he's probably going to make more money for those 6 months, 4 months that he plays in the UFL than he would, be going as a first-time job seeker out of college. So I'm not mad at him for taking the risk. He is not making generational wealth. He's not making wealth that he can put in the bank for the next 20 years, but he will make enough to support his family for a year. You cannot knock that. Now, the play call, what was it? The professional scouts that said we want to see him run this play? Or was it the coaches saying we want to show off his skills running his play? That question will never be answered. But I do have to say, because if an NFL or UFL official said, I want to see him, we want to see him run so-and-so and so-and-so, these type of plays, then you got to do what they ask, because they're the ones who are going to be signing his paycheck ultimately if he's going to play. So, unfortunate, yes. Can we do anything? The only thing we can do is not play the game. That's the only thing that we can do. And if that's the case, what happens? Because there's only so much that you can do in the Underwear Olympics to impress these scouts.
Very true. Well said. And again, certainly understand Dr. Roderick Holmes says RPOs should not be called in all-star games. I think there's an argument for that in terms of that. Obviously, you call the play. He makes it no injury. Nobody thinks twice about it. You celebrate. But we'll see how it moves forward. Certainly will be room for more conversation. I do think it's good to see the amount of interest from the HBCU framework, if you would, of people having this type of conversation on the issue. Obviously, I think maybe some of the language and stuff like that could be toned down, but the passion that's out there is extremely important to continue to see for the overall HBCU sports culture. So with that being said, any final thought on it from you, Charles?
I am conflicted in regards to what skill set you want to showcase, but I know my immediate reaction was I couldn't believe he was running in that situation. So I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think everybody did that, but hindsight is 2020. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. I think the other thing is so many of us got to know things from the championship run and all the media that have talked to him, particularly, and then the fact that he is senior year and we get to talk with him and made us feel like we knew Davis and we had a connection and wanted to see him do well because he's such a brilliant and dynamic young man, and that's on and off the field. So I will add that to the event and really pray for his speedy recovery in terms of moving forward in whatever he chooses to do, whether it's continue to chase his dreams in terms of playing football or whether that is in another professional career. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. Again, we will not have a show this Thursday. We will give myself a chance to travel. We'll keep you updated as we take care of a little other business. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter. Facebook and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles, anything you need, let me know. You need to take care of your business there. AD Drew, again, thank you for joining us tomorrow. ONG Strike Zone, make sure you check it out. You also have on Sunday, obviously, updates from SportsWrap with Brian and AD. One of my favorite shows out there is they just go in all types of directions, ask those tough questions, even the ones I don't agree with. I'm like, man, what? You can't do that. Don't say that. But it's great in terms of the dialogue. Shout out to Carlos on Saturday when he brings in the ADs and the coaches. They just continue to educate. But that's what you get on BCSN and the live game. So make sure you continue to check us out, BCSN, as we give you your live streaming games, particularly for the NIA, SIAC Division II programs. We'll continue to give you that. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We'll talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
AD?
Bowie 9, Livingstone 7, first half. Lecture.
Dismiss.